it's just a fun team. And like, that's our job here. It's to give out winners and to identify what the fun storyline is.
I love backing him at these big spreads because they can be up 35. And if they give up a first down, he's going to be ripping them apart on the sidelines. So,
however, this number is crazy. You were correct in terms of everything you laid out. It doesn't make sense.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast. All right,
here we go.
Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Group of Five Deep Dive. I'm your co-host, Mike Calabrese, joined by my co-host, Mike Iannello. We're going to walk you through everything that was noteworthy there in week 3 and get right to the best bets. The G5 High Five, our Underdog Parlay that almost got to the window. We've been doing a lot better in that regard this season. But let's lay out some of the feel-good stories here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my UNLV sweatshirt I am wearing with pride. Sluka, we tried to warn you, he is a roller coaster, and he gave you everything that the Sluka experience promises. He made some really boneheaded throws. He's had some issues with downfield passing. He also just put the whole offense on his back in every critical situation, getting that upset of Kansas on the road. Now 2-0 against Big 12 teams, so they got a shot for the Big 12 title as far as I'm concerned. They got Syracuse on the horizon, so a chance to bolster that college football playoff resume even further. This has been year one. This is where I'll get you in here. I know this has been year one of the college football playoff expansion to 12 teams. The G5 top team gets that auto bid. It's already even more exciting than I thought it would be. There's so many teams that are relevant. It's already putting some pressure on these teams like Northern Illinois. Can they keep it up coming off of that upset of Notre Dame? You have lots of programs, Texas State taking Arizona State, 15 rounds, nearly winning that game, but proving in the process that they belong at least in the conversation. This is an interesting dynamic. What is your take thus far on what the college football playoff means to all these teams in the G5?
Yeah, I think it's been awesome. I think it kind of puts, everyone talked about how it would, separate the groups more. I feel like it hasn't. I feel like if anything, it's brought the G5 more relevant. You talk about, for college basketball, you have these resume builders, wins or losses. You have, Boise State taking Oregon to the wire is going to be a resume booster for them. You have the like you said, Texas State didn't beat Arizona State, but I think anytime you hang with a Power 5, it's going to look good. Even if, Mississippi State's horrific, but Toledo crushing them in Starkville is going to help their case if Toledo runs the table. You have, what was the other one? There was another, Memphis beating Florida State. Sure, Florida State sucks, but that's a good win for Memphis. And you had, Toledo, we had UNLV Texas State taking Arizona State to the wild, UNLV, obviously Northern Illinois. So I think it's only helped. It's made these G5 wins more relevant, more talked about, and something that it's not just like a conference blip in the radar. And then when you flip on the selection show, they're breaking down which 8-4 SEC team is really better. It's like, no, now, they're going to be continuing to bring up these G5 games later in the year. It's like, hey, remember when Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame? Don't forget about the Huskies as the playoff contender. I think it's going to keep those G5 teams and those big wins relevant longer, which I'm very excited about.
Separately, just within conference play, competing and pitting these conferences against one another, I'm thrilled that the MAC got that upset win with Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame, because this has been a conference that has been outside of the running really for the auto bid for years. So for them immediately to have a seat at the table, a team to join another team like Toledo, where all of a sudden now if they could meet a ranked matchup in the MAC title game, that would have more juice than it's had probably in its history. So a very exciting possibility, at least on the horizon. As I teed it up at the beginning, our G5 heroes from week 3. Let's get started with yours, Iannello.
Yeah, well, first of all, it certainly wasn't me. I suck. I was terrible last week, so I just want to go on the record saying, hand up, I was horrific, but went to Rhode Island for a few days. I jumped in the ocean to cleanse myself. I'm hoping to come back better, so I apologize.
You had to go to a state with 0 FBS teams. You had to just get away from college football that we covered.
Also one where you can't gamble, so I just had to clear my head. My hero of the week is Caden Feldkamp, backup quarterback, Western Kentucky. Comes in out of the bullpen. TJ Finley got hurt in the first quarter. 27-30, 390 yards, 5 touchdowns, lit up Middle Tennessee State. And if you think, where have I heard Caden Feldkamp before? Well, because he did the same thing in the bowl game last year where he came in for Helton's nephew against Old Dominion. They were down like 3 touchdowns, threw for 383 yards and 5 touchdowns in that game for a big 28-point comeback. So he did break his own personal record of 383 yards in this one. So awesome story. This is a kid that was going to enter the portal after that bowl game. Already came out and said it because the coaches at Western Kentucky told him he wasn't good enough to play quarterback. And if he either had to leave or he was going to be forced to play tight end, balls out in the bowl game. They then pivot, convince him to come back. They bring in Finley to replace him. He loses his job anyway. Now he's going to be the starter. Western Kentucky may start to be a buy-on team. I love Feldkamp, so he gets my hero of the week.
I'm going to be mentioning Feldkamp in this very pod, so I'm glad that you brought him up earlier. Yeah, he's only had one career start, and it's been an absolute electric show. I can't believe. And also, he was a 3-star recruit. He had some interest. I think he had a verbal offer from Kentucky to be a quarterback as well. So it's strange to me that they had a kid with this level of play in him on their roster, and they went with TJ Finley. But it's all going to change now because Finley's in a walking boot. He's out for at least 3 weeks, according to the coaching staff. And I think if Feldkamp plays anywhere close to that, he's not going to relinquish this job. All right, for my G5 here, this will be the first time that it's an inanimate object. I'm going to go with the gold go-go chain from Brennan Marion and UNLV. This team has swag. They have the coaching. They have the players. It's just a fun team. And that's our job here. It's to give out winners and to identify what the fun storyline is. Brennan Marion's just a phenomenal dresser, apparently, on top of everything else. So his swag is influencing the Runnin' Rebs play on the field. I can't wait to see them against Syracuse in a couple weeks. And that's what's so fun about college football. If you had told us 6 months ago, circle your calendar, Syracuse UNLV, potential ranked matchup. Yeah, so that's the kind of time travel stuff that just wouldn't hold up. We're going to hop from this right into best bets, keeping the train moving here. I'm going to go first this week. I'm going to go with our old G5 hero. That's head coach Curt Cignetti, now at Indiana, laying 28, about 28 and a half in the market. Don't worry, I played all the way up to 30 and a half if you're listening to this a little bit later, because they're playing Charlotte, and Charlotte's a tire fire. I'll get to the 49ers in a moment. Let's first go back to Cignetti, who's an absolute monster. He wants to win. He wants to win big, and not just for this year. He wants to be able to recruit, and whether he does in the portal or the high school ranks, he wants to show that Indiana is playing a fun brand of football. Well, they're just running it up on everybody. They dropped, 70 plus on Western Illinois. They dropped the hammer on UCLA. Welcome to the Big Ten there, Bruins, beating them 42-13. And when you look at Cignetti's performance against the closing numbers since moving up to the FBS level, 7-4, 8-5, 2-1 against the spread, 17-10 in his career, cashing 63% of tickets. And if you would listen to us in week 1, got that good number against FIU. He's 3-0 here with the Hoosiers. I just look at what they're doing offensively, and the Maple Missile is so comfortable. It's clear that he is thriving in this offense. They have the perimeter weapons to be able to run it up. And Charlotte just limps into this game. They're without Max Brown at quarterback. He's ruled out for this one. They're a bottom 10 team without him at quarterback in terms of their current roster and quarterback situation. So I want to target those teams to just get bombed off the map. They needed a 21-point fourth quarter to beat lifeless Gardner-Webb by 1. They can't run. They can't protect the quarterback. They're ranking bottom 10 in both of those metrics. And the only way that they've made up for it thus far this year is they've been able to hit some chunk plays, a lot of them against Gardner-Webb, but they averaged 3 plays of 30-plus yards per game. The issue here against the Hoosiers, Indiana's not giving up chunk plays. IU is one of the best teams in the entire country in terms of limiting explosives. And we all want the Biff story, Biff Poggi, to be a fun story. The no sleeves, the brashness, basically flipping his entire roster. Well, Biff needs to go back to the future and not take this Charlotte job. That is the issue that we have here, because this was a year 0 last year. It's still a year 0 in this situation. I'm going to advocate Indiana first half. I don't care if you have to lay 20 in this one. I'm going to take them game. I think they're just going to run it up on the 49ers, because that's what Cigarette Cignetti is. He's somebody who wants to smoke him if he got him, run it up, try to lay a number on somebody. I think they do it again here. So like I said, I played all the way up to 30 and a half.
Yeah, first of all, if we have any listeners here in Bloomington, I know the first game they were handing out the Cignetti t-shirts that look like the Marlboro logo. I will pay any amount of money for one of those t-shirts. Somebody DM me if you have a shirt and are willing to sell it or give it to me, because I desperately need one of those. And much like cigarettes, Cignetti's a stone cold killer. So he's someone you want to back in this spot. I mean, you were watching, was it week 2? Who they play week 2? Some FCS school. They're up 70, and he was red as a tomato. He was so mad that they gained like 3 yards. He is a full-blown step on the throat, no mercy, leave no questions. So yeah, I love backing him at these big spreads because they can be up 35, and if they give up a first down, he's going to be ripping them apart on the sidelines. So yeah, I love it. This Indiana team is very, very good.
To your point, they're up 42-3 against the Leathernecks of Western Illinois. Great nickname. They scored 35 more in the second half. So that just shows the kind of guy that he is, and what he wants to have done.
And if you watched him on the sidelines, he was furious they didn't score more. Like, legitimately furious that whole game.
Now, you mentioned Veldkamp as your G5 hero. I got to throw in the Maple Missile stats recently. Last 2 games, 40 for 50, 575 yards, 6 TDs, 0 picks. Another one of our former G5 boys, all grown up, killing it in the Big Ten. All right, who do you have as your best bet for week 4?
I'm going to go with a rare total for me. You are the over boy, so we'll see what you think of this one. Over 54.5, Tulane versus Louisiana. I think this game is going to feel like, for Tulane, this game is going to feel like when a baseball player is swinging a bat with a donut on the on-deck circle, and then they take it off, and that bat feels like nothing in their hands, because Tulane is coming off games against Kansas State and Oklahoma. So this Louisiana defense is going to be a very welcome sight for them. And despite playing against the elevated competition, I actually still thought Tulane looked pretty good on offense. They're averaging 6.6 yards per play on offense. They rank 33rd in EPA per play. Darian Mensah was kind of like a surprise starter. I don't think any of us mentioned him in the preseason. We all assumed to be Kai Horton, Ty Thompson, but this kid could throw it around a little bit. He has an average depth of target of 13.2, which is like 3rd in the American. He is certainly not afraid to push the ball downfield. And it helps having stud receiver Mario Williams, the former USC and Oklahoma transfer. He's averaging over 22 yards per catch, 96 yards per game. He is nasty. Mekhi Hughes, one of the best backs in the G5. We've talked about him a lot over the years. I think this offense will continue to be more exciting once they can, open things up a little bit more against normal competition. And then for Louisiana, they're a weird team. We've only seen them play 2 games. So they played an FCS team in Kennesaw State, who's basically an FCS team. So they've been able to flex their muscles. They're averaging 37 points per game. Ben Wooldridge is he's really in a good rhythm here. He's completing 77% of his passes, spreading it around a lot. 5 players on this team are averaging at least 25 receiving yards per game. It's Alan Perry and Elijah Davis, both good running backs, both running the ball really well. Louisiana has gained 77.6% of their available yards this season. That is the most in the country. So they're 16th in yards per play. I just think this offense it's kind of I like them both for 2 different reasons, where Tulane is now getting, they're able to flex their muscles where they haven't, where Louisiana is in full confidence mode right now. So I'm not totally sold on both defenses, even against lesser competition. Louisiana's defense is just 75th in EPA. Tulane, they replaced a ton of starters on the defense. So Louisiana's coming off a bye. I think their offense will be in good rhythm, come out strong with a few tricks up their sleeves. And like I said, I think Tulane will take the opportunity to open things up a bit. And you're getting under the key number of 55, which is the most important number in college football. So give me over 54.5 in Tulane, Louisiana. I want to know your thoughts on the over. I also want to know your thoughts on this game, because I was actually very close to taking Tulane minus 2.5 in this one, and then I ended up pivoting to the over.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because essentially an extended preseason for Louisiana, a team that it wasn't necessarily not high on Woolridge, but he's done everything that you would hope that he would do against these opponents, taking the baby step forward. And it is interesting because you even see it in the NFL. There's differential between quarterbacks who got reps in preseason, like Derek Carr and the Saints. They ended up playing him in multiple preseason games. They've come out red hot. I know that Bryce Young is getting a lot of dirt thrown on him, but they essentially played him, one drive in the whole preseason and thought that he would be fine. Even professional quarterbacks, whether it's a veteran like Carr or an up-and-comer like Young, you need the reps. So to be able to go through that and build confidence, I think that is interesting. My only concern with this one would be kind of the body blow theory on Tulane having to play up against these Power 4 teams. How much do they have in the tank? So I think really you'll probably know in the first 2 to 3 drives if they're not showing any wear and tear and they come out guns a-blazing. I think that number is ripe to go over. And I'm glad because this is my first dance card of the season here at the Group of 5 Deep Dive. I don't have an over, don't even have a total on the board. So I'm glad that you're doing it for us this week.
Stop what you're doing right now and subscribe to the newest college sports YouTube channel.
College football is around the corner, and the new BBOC channel is your destination for betting on college sports.
Interviews with former college athletes and other topics such as College Football 25.
Subscribe now and get in on the action.
Now it's time for the G5 High Five. Last week, I only put 2 picks in, which means I'm doing the heavy lifting here with 3, and I'll get things kick-started with UTEP, Miner Nation. Shout out to West Texas, El Paso. I'll take the 10 points here. It's been floating in the market between 9, 9.5, 10. I got it at 11 earlier in the week. If you have to buy the half point to get it up to 10 and lay minus 130, I think it's of value to do so. They're going to be in Fort Collins at Colorado State here. And it's pretty simple. Colorado State is coming off a huge emotional letdown. They talked all the trash in the world against Colorado. They were ready to seek revenge. It had that Super Bowl feel, and they lay an egg on their home field. They scored 3 points in the first 3.5 quarters against the Buffaloes. And we know that Deion's defense is not the 85 Bears. They finished with just 209 passing yards. Braden Fowler and Nicolosi's QBR against the Buffs, 6.4 out of 100. So the question here is, can this offense get going? I'm betting no, because Torrey Horton is unlikely to play. He's questionable. Really, he shouldn't even played last week. He was just trying to gut it out in their game of the year. That's a major concern for the Rams offense. He's the special playmaker. There's no Justice Ross Simmons anymore. He's off to Syracuse. There's no Dallin Holker. He's in the NFL. This receiving core is considerably below average outside of Horton. He makes everybody else better. He gets people one-on-one coverage, or he gets all of the attention from zone defenses. Without him in this lineup, I really question Fowler and Nicolosi's ability to hurt UTEP consistently in this game. Now, this is still a year 0 rebuild for the Miners, but Skylar Locklear, having watched most of their games, I had to speed through the Southern Utah recap game, but he's flashed a little bit. And when you consider the competition that they played against, drawing Liberty once the Fiesta Bowl, in their opener against Nebraska, a revitalized Cornhusker team, it's understandable that their underlying metrics and stats are not that great. But I am impressed with the Miner defense. I figured they were going to be absolutely one of the worst defenses at the FBS level, particularly with an offense playing with tempo, the potential for quick 3-and-outs, leaving them on the field a lot. But they've been a little bit better than that. When you look at Bill Conley's numbers, he has them at 115th in defensive S&P+. They're creating negative plays. They're top 60 in tackles for loss. And they're halfway decent in the red zone, ranking 49th in scores allowed inside of their own 20. So I think UTEP has an opportunity against a Colorado State offense that has issues to be able to kind of hold the line here. So the question is, can Scotty Walden's fast-paced offense work, avoid negative plays, and getting behind the sticks? Because that's been the issue. When Locklear is getting roughed up and he's getting sacked and they're behind schedule, this is an offense that can struggle a little bit. Luckily, Colorado State, no pass rush. Maybe the worst pass rush in America now that Mo Kamara is off to the NFL. And their secondary, 124th in coverage grade. I promised myself that there'd be 1 or 2 spots this year to back Walden and our beloved Miners. This is the spot. Get that key number at 10. Either wait it out or buy the half point. I'm on UTEP here.
Yeah, Colorado State is very bad. And they're not going to get any better without Horton. So I agree. I like it. Even the way you said, they laid an egg against Colorado. I don't know if they laid an egg. I think they're just bad. So, yeah, don't like it. Or don't hate it. For mine, I'm going with a team I've been on all year. And I'm going to back them here in this game. And you better be... Hey, by the way, we were texting during the Texas State game. Let me clear something up. Because everyone thinks me and Breeze have this, he's on Texas State, I'm against him. We have our t-shirt bet, whatever. Let's be clear, when that's for the conference, when they're playing non-con games, we G5 boys right here. I was screaming at my TV rooting for Texas State, not just because I had the over and wanted them to score, but G5, I always will defend the G5 and root for them, even when it's not the team I want to win the conference. And you damn well better do the same on Saturday, because we're riding with James Madison plus 10.5 against North Carolina. It has no effect on your Sunbelt bet, so we're riding with the Dukes. North Carolina is 3-0 with wins against Minnesota, Charlotte, and NC Central. But they have yet to cover a spread against 3 teams I don't think are very good. They lost Max Johnson in the season opener against Minnesota. Since then, they have started Connor Harrell against both. He started, I think, both Charlotte and NC Central, but then he barely played against NC Central. He played 3 series. Jacoby Criswell came in, played the entire rest of the game. Mac Brown has come out already and said both will play against James Madison. In Calabrese, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. The reason is because neither one of them are very good, and neither one of them have been able to gain the job. I don't think Max Johnson is good, so I think him starting the season as QB1 was already a bad sign for these two. So I just don't think they have a good quarterback. Yes, Omarion Hampton is obviously a stud, but the QB situation really concerns me. James Madison, we know they're going to be good against the run. They've always been good against the run. They've still been good against the run. And for the Dukes, they ended up going with Alonza Barnett at quarterback instead of Dylan Morris, which we all assumed. But after watching James Madison, I think, and then also watching Sluka, I think it's clear why, because clearly they want to run this, they want a mobile quarterback. They want a dual threat quarterback. That's what they ran at Holy Cross with Sluka. Now they're doing it with Barnett because they want the mobile guy. He is much more dangerous with his legs. He's averaging 177 yards per game passing, 52 per game rushing. He and George Pettaway have been a dynamic pairing on the ground. So for starters, I always like backing, double-digit underdogs when both teams' strength is running the ball. That's what both teams are going to look to do. Both teams rank top 10 in the country in success rate against the run on defense. So I don't hate the under here either, to be honest with you. But I think this is going to be kind of a muck-it-up, slow game. We've seen the ACC struggle this whole season. All the teams in the ACC are bad except Miami. Also, we know North Carolina loves to mess around in these spots against Sun Belt teams. I mean, App State's beaten them like twice and almost beat them another time. So I think UNC not having a quarterback is going to be a big issue here. I expect Chesney to have James Madison. That's another thing, too, by the way. Game like this, which coach is going to have the boys ready to play? Mac Brown's old ass against a Sun Belt team, or Jeremy Renner looking Bob Chesney firing up the Dukes to go into Chapel Hill? Give me James Madison plus 10.5 against the Tar Heels.
It's the Petway revenge game. North Carolina transfer as well.
Yeah, I did.
Just
I
one
wrote it down.
Added angle.
I did. I forgot
in
to say
case
bet his rushing over
that game. It's a pass for me. Although the number going through a card that I didn't necessarily love, that was like cutting room floor for me. We'll be sure to get to all the cutting room floor picks before we get out of here. All right, I'm going to go with a team. I'm going to fade this team. I got to put my money where my mouth is. I said that La Tech was so bad that they were going to get Sonny Cumbie fired. I still think that they're going to struggle this season. They needed a fourth quarter rally to beat Nichols using two quarterbacks. They get a fluky 71-yard catch and run against NC State. If you saw that play, he gets like a slant pass. There's four Wolfpack defenders all within arm's length of him. He spins around, runs out for a long touchdown. They also had a 57-yard field goal in the first half of that game. NC State was sleepy in that one. They end up getting it together in the second half. The Bulldogs are outscored by the Wolfpack 24-3 in the final 30 minutes. I think that's closer to the quality that they're going to bring to the field here on Saturday. Neither Jack Turner nor Blake Baker are very accurate. They're averaging just 2.5 yards per carry as a team, but they've generated long plays and they've gotten really strong special teams play, and I think that's what's been the differentiator to make them look a little bit better than they are. Now, the Golden Hurricane with Tulsa taking the plus 3.5 here. I like Tulsa's offense a lot more than La Tech's. And I understand that the last time they played and the recency bias, they got spanked by Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, under Mike Gundy, they're always one of the most schizophrenic teams in the entire country. They almost lose to Arkansas, where they can't open any holes for Ollie Gordon in the first half. Then all of a sudden, Alan Bowman last week against Tulsa just goes full God mode, plays like they're a top 15 team that's going to be in the mix for the college football playoff. I don't care about that. That is so far away from what this game is about in terms of the talent differential. This is down in the muck. This is trash kind of G5 level. I'm going to go ahead and take the points because La Tech is also a home field in Ruston that's not worth very much. The Bulldogs are 20-22 against the spread as a home favorite in the last decade, which is below average. This is not something where they're going to be walking into a house of horrors. And as I said at the beginning, the Golden Hurricane, I like some of the pieces they have on offense. Camden Benjamin has been a very impressive big play threat. He's got chemistry with Kirk Francis. I know that they pulled him in the last game in terms of Francis, but I think that was just more or less, it's not working. Everybody's having a bad day. I think they're going to go back to him. They use Cardell Williams in the goal-to-go packages, which gives them different elements offensively. So I think you're going to see him on the field as a runner. I think that just gives them a little bit more oomph offensively. And I talked about Louisiana Tech special teams. This is where I'll close here on Tulsa. Tulsa can flip this game in the return game. Only Oregon, Central Michigan, and the Golden Hurricane have both a punt and kickoff return for a touchdown this year. They have special playmakers like Benjamin in that regard. So I'm going to go ahead and take the points here. I considered it as my money line underdog play, but over that key number of 3 is enough for me.
We tried this strategy last week, and it did not work. But I will be talking about this game later on in the show.
All right, what do you have next?
All right, I'm going with a pick that we don't do this very often on our show. I feel like this is almost more of a Stucky move. This is just a strict numbers play. Hold your nose. Give me New Mexico State plus 16.5 against Sam Houston State. I think this line is insane. It's insane that Sam Houston State's a 16.5 point favorite. I mean, Sam Houston State has won 5 games at the FBS level in 2 years, and they're 16.5 point favorites here. Look, speaking of Colin Stock, if you listen to the preseason podcasts, you know Colin Wilson is very high on Sam Houston. He is much higher on them than me, so keep that in mind. His power ratings only make Sam Houston State a 16.5 point favorite against UMass, Temple, UTEP, and Kent State. He makes this game 9. Now, obviously, fading the Bearcats did not work last week for me. Hunter Watson bounced back nicely, but he's still a very below-average quarterback. He had just 165 yards passing. The team was able to run the ball all day. I still don't think he's very good. Sam Houston is 124th in success rate on offense. They're 119th on defense. I know New Mexico State's terrible, but, we saw them. They were able to muck things up against Liberty a few weeks ago, only lost by 6. I think, just also look at this game from an odds maker's point of view. New Mexico State was plus 22 against Liberty and plus 20.5 against Fresno State. And now they're 16.5 against Sam Houston. So that means Fresno State would be a 4-point favorite against Sam Houston, which is crazy. Fresno State would be a 14-point favorite against Sam Houston. So this line this number makes no sense. The Aggies suck, but Sam Houston is not 17 points better than them. I'm taking the Aggies. By the way, don't even get me started on Monty Watkins not getting the ball. He's their 3rd running back. I don't understand it. Give him the ball 48 times in this game, and the Aggies will win. But 16.5 is am I crazy, or is this number 16.5 is crazy for this number?
I have 2 things in my head at the same time. I am a Hunter Watson believer. I know that he doesn't play the most aesthetically pleasing brand of football, but as a dual threat, he's going to get it done in this offense. However, this number is crazy. You were correct in terms of everything you laid out. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Now, I know that the transitive property of college football betting is not something that you can actually take to the bank where this team's 7 points better than that team. And this, it can be difficult to get into the weeds like that. But purely from a numbers perspective, which is how you presented it, there's only one side to bet in this. So,
and the good thing about betting teams like this too is you don't have to worry about the back of your head. Is someone I don't know about hurt? Who cares? There's nobody on New Mexico State that could move. Their whole team could be hurt, and the line would move 2 points. So it's there's not anyone's good enough to make this number make sense.
All right. In the preseason, I pumped up the service academies. Well, 2 of the 3, I should say. I pumped up Army and Navy, did some write-ups on it, why I thought both of them would go bowling. Army's looked really good out of the gate. They got, I believe, the longest winning streak going here in the country, other than, maybe they are up to number 1. I'll double check on that. They're laying 5 here against the Rice Owls at home. And let's zoom out here for a 40,000-foot view of the Army program. Since taking over at Army, Jeff Monken has taken advantage of rest. When he has a rest advantage over his opponent, an extra week to prepare for Rice in this case, he is 25-16 against the spread in those scenarios, 61% cash rate. Now, Rice is coming in, having just got smacked around by Houston, a team that they beat last year that really put wind in their sails, ended up helping them, get over the hump and get back to a bowl game. Whereas this year they get crushed. Their quarterback play has been horrific. EJ Warner got benched in that game. Will it be Drew DeVilliers or Warner? Who knows? Not a great sign for, walking into an opponent that's as buttoned up as Army. So I know I get it. I understand the narrative, which is you always look to avoid a service academy favorite. You don't want to be laying points with this triple option offense. You want to target them under 3 if they're a favorite, but ideally as an underdog. But Rice hasn't played a service academy, a triple option offense in 5 years. And the last time they did it was Army, and they lost 14-7. So I think in terms of the short preparation time to get ready for this, where they're headed offensively, which is nowhere fast. I just think that this play is screaming Army anything under a touchdown. To see it sitting at 5, this is not a public team. It's not going to take steam. I don't think it's going to get up to 7 because a lot of the underlying metrics for Rice, it's just they're below average against the run. They're giving up 151 on the ground. Their defensive stuff rate 115th, defensive rush EPA 127th. The more you get into their profile, the DNA in this defense, it just screams that they're going to get beat up by this Army rushing attack, which has looked great. I mean, Bryson Daly is exactly what I was hoping he would be. He was the catalyst last year for their 4-game win streak. He's carried it over to this year. And the only thing that the Rice defense can do is they're geared to stop the pass. A lot of their metrics there, coverage grade in terms of EPA against the pass, they're all really good. So I think Rice is a team to keep in the back of your mind later in the season. If they're playing a pass-first team and they're catching a lot of points, I think they can muck things up and make it difficult for teams to get down the field and score through the air. But when I look at Army, what are they going to do? They're going to run. They're number 1 in rushing success rate in the country. Their defense is bend but not break. They're top 50 in third down defense. They're 4th in red zone defense, albeit with a small sample size. So the Woody's defense is something I've always believed in. He's a great tactician. He's been a Broyles nominee before for this reason. You just said it with the New Mexico State handicap where it's like, it doesn't matter the personnel. Like there's not a star that they need to have 3 tackles for a loss on this defense or a shutdown corner. They play team football, all 11 guys run into the ball. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 5. As I said, as long as you get it under that key number of 7, it's a play on the Cadets.
Yeah, I actually had this written down as one of my best of the rest picks that I strongly considered. Didn't end up pulling the trigger on, but was planning to bet it. So I'm very glad you're on it. That seals the deal. That I will add that to my card as well. Like you said, Rice's strength. Gabe Taylor at safety, playing against the pass. So I definitely like this play. The Army offense looked really good this year. So I definitely am a favorite of this one as well.
All right, we're going to close things out with our favorite segment, at least for this year, the Underdog Moneyline Parlay. We've been clicking on this, hit one already this season. We got close a few other times, so here it is. I'm going to get started quickly. Talked about it, Western Kentucky, Cade Veldkamp. He is a wagon. I'm hitching my bet to it. I'm going to take the money line over Toledo. Toledo's getting all this love for dog walking Mississippi State. They deserve it. They didn't just beat Mississippi State in Starkville. They crushed them. Are we sure that Mississippi State isn't trash? I'm not quite so sure. An impressive result. I'm not going to take anything away from
I'm sure they are trash.
Yes. But when you play with Toledo, you're rolling the dice with Tucker Gleason. And what do we know? He's a boomer bust guy. He just had a great game, but let's talk about his last 4 starts. Stinker against Wyoming in the Barstool Bowl. Smooth performance against FCS Duquesne. No disrespect to the Dukes, but I don't care about that. Stinker against UMass this season. He went 8 for 23, and then he just rolls into Starkville and plays like an all-SEC quarterback, killing Mississippi State. So he's up and down. And then you look at Jason Candle, their head coach. Since 2018, he's 10-11 against the spread as a road favorite. And of those 11 against the spread losses, 6 were outright. Now, what do I get with this Western Kentucky play? I got Cade Veldkamp. He played significant snaps only twice. We don't need to go through all the stats. Toastery Bowl MVP. The guy's already a legend in my book, and he's into a system that needed this kind of quarterback to unlock all of their potential and ceiling on the perimeter with their receiving core. He's done it. So the fact is they have one of the best kept secrets in the G5 as their star quarterback. You're not going to get a number that's this advantageous on him if he puts up even one more huge game. And Toledo, here's the last piece of the puzzle for me. They lost a lot in their secondary. They still have talent back on their defense, evidenced by their performance in the first 3 weeks, but no Quinyon Mitchell at corner and no Chris McDonald, who is also all MAC at corner. This is the first passing game that I feel real bullish on that they played this entire season. I think the Hilltoppers are going to throw for 350 plus in this game, spur an upset. So I'm going to go ahead with the Hilltoppers as my money line underdog. What do you think here? Just purely from a quarterback, head to head, Veldkamp against Gleason. I think that's a big advantage.
I love it. I obviously didn't know we don't share. I did not know you were taking this, and I teased it at the top that Western Kentucky is going to be a buy-on team because I like this pick as well. Question for you in this one: who's a better offensive line, Western Kentucky or Mississippi State?
I mean, at least in terms of how Veldkamp gets the ball out of his hands, I'd rather have him slinging it and him having that internal clock in his head. So yeah, I'll go Western Kentucky.
So against this Toledo up front, I'd rather have the Toppers. So I like it a lot. And then I'm going to take mine. I know you like it. Give me Tulsa. Money line. Ride the wave. I don't think Tulsa's quite as bad as we thought they were going to be coming into the year. Like you said, they got smoked by Oklahoma State, but the offense still managed over 5 yards per play. They hung with Arkansas State the week before. I mean, they're 59th in offensive success rate and 84th on defense. I mean, that's nothing to write home about, but I think we expected them to be a bottom 20 team. Francis has been serviceable. They have 3 running backs averaging over 40 yards per game. And you mentioned it, Cam Benjamin is becoming a star. He was Francis's clearly his favorite target at the end of last season. They quickly developed great chemistry. We've seen it already this year. He's averaging nearly 100 yards per game. Meanwhile, La Tech is 131st in success rate on offense, despite playing half their games against an FCS team. Surprisingly, they actually looked much better against NC State than they did against Nicholls State. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Jack Turner is terrible. He's completing 52% of his passes. He's horrible. And then, Marquise Crosby is probably their best player, but he's been playing through injury. They've already said he's not going to be 100% this week. It's something he's going to continue to deal with. He's got just 48 yards in 2 games. They're averaging 2.3 yards per carry as a team, 128th in the nation, just barely ahead of Florida State. So at least they went ahead and topped the Knolls in that category. Yeah, I'm with you. I think power rating, we're not power ratings guys, but you can make an argument Tulsa's a better team. And if not, they're certainly right there in the conversation. And yeah, I've been surprisingly, pleased is a hard word because I'm sure we're going to shit on Tulsa all throughout conference play, but they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. And La Tech's just as bad as we all thought they were going to be. So yeah, give me Tulsa. I like this play.
I will close things out quickly with some cutting room floor picks. If Buffalo bubbles up over 2 touchdowns, they get 14.5. I'm taking them against NIU. When I close my eyes, a 24-10 NIU win, 30 carries for Ontario Brown, 25 tackles for Sean Dolak, just not an exciting up and down game. NIU just happy to keep the positive momentum going. This isn't a team that just boat races. They're not meant for that. They're not built for that. Yes, Hampton has some breakout performances, in his game log, but I think this is going to be one of those games where Buffalo is well coached. I believe in them. And I think the MAC, it's great for the whole brands that they have that number in terms of NIU, that ranked national, essence to them. But are they really the 23rd best team in the country? Or is this, a little bit of just projection off of a single win in South Bend? I think it is. So like I said, if I can get over 14 as of recording, I've been waiting. I got the alert set. As soon as it goes over 14, I'm going to take the Bulls.
Call this just a gut feeling. I think we're in for a very Mackey year where we have had, Toledo kind of run the table, Miami, Ohio run the table. I'm this year with the MAC champs 8-4, and this team just has pure chaos because I think there's a lot of good teams and they're all just kind of crammed together. I think this is going to be the MAC cannibalization year. So I like that play. I said the Army one. I have 3 I want to throw out and see if there's any of these you think I should add to my card that I considered. Utah State -6 against Temple. Memphis -9 against Navy. I know you hate the Service Academy as catching that many points, but I just think Navy's really bad. And the other one I considered was Southern Miss +6.5 against Jacksonville State. I think Jacksonville State might be terrible.
I'm actually on the other side for Navy. If I can get over the number 10, I think there's a chance with Memphis coming off of that win over Florida State.
That's why I don't like it. I don't like the Memphis riding high. I think from a pure numbers talent, I think Memphis is 10 points better, but I would have bet it if it wasn't after that Florida State game, and they're it just seems like an obvious spot now, so that's why I didn't take it.
If Utah State can cover Dante Wright, Temple won't score more than 13 points in that game. So yeah, of that 3-pack, I would go Utah State. If they have a single sharp defensive mind in their entire coaching staff, just put 3 guys on them. Just treat them like Justin Jefferson.
All right, sweet.
All right, for Mike Iannello, I'm Mike Calabrese. This has been the Group of 5 Deep Dive under the Big Bets on Campus banner. A reminder that Stuck and Colin will be back with the full slates of everything Week 4 in the world of college football. 90 minutes deep dive and taking you through every single marquee matchup, diving through the trash, giving you their round robins, all those different things that they do on a weekly basis, all leading into the Saturday live show with Brett McMurphy, Colin Stuck, and myself, as well as Johnny Manziel, doing a couple of video on demand picks there. So make sure to check that out over on our BBOC channel, it will not be airing on the Action Network in terms of the YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe, BBOC, subscribe, like, and also a reminder, there's been some activity on the Apple reviews. Those 5 stars are incredibly helpful, and I've been giving out $10 parlays. So if you want to be a part of that, throw us a 5-star review. I don't really care what you say. Just make sure it has those 5 stars associated with it, and hit me up over on Twitter at EastBreeze, EASTBREESE, and I'll make sure to punch in a $10 parlay of your choosing. All right, that's it for us. Enjoy another college football Saturday. They are starting to heat up a little bit, and as soon as we get out of the non-con, that's when these group of 5 teams can really start flexing their muscles a little bit. One more week of this, and then we'll be into the traditional conference play. Thanks for listening, guys.